Prettiest thing I've ever seen was a Holy Ghost girl. And when she hits the scene, you'll know what I mean, 'cause she's a Holy Ghost girl.
According to Webster, love is defined as a strong affection for another, arising out of kinship or personal ties. The 2009 U.S. Census Bureau reported that 43% of all Americans over the age of 18 were single. 53% of unmarried Americans were women over the age of 18. And for every 100 unmarried women, there were 88 unmarried men who were over the age of 18. What is the cause for these startling and very sobering statistics? One might be led to question, is there such a thing as true love? And if there is, what does one do while waiting for it to occur? Can one really be truly happy, content, and single all at the same time? Well, here today to help answer these questions and shed more light on the topic of being content and single is Ms. Vonda Chappelle. She is founder of a singles movement called Time Between I Do, and author of a new Christian book entitled Lonely But Not Alone, which deals with the topic of finding and understanding your purpose and being single. We're here with Ms. Vonda Chappelle, who is the founder of the singles movement Time Between I Do, as well as Christian author of the book Lonely But Not Alone. So, Ms. Vonda, it's great to have you here today.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and a privilege.
Thank you.
Just want to get started and let our viewers get to know you a little bit more. Want to know, what is your inspiration? What's your background a little bit about, and what got you started with wanting to write in the first place?
My background, I grew up Pentecostal. Obviously, I've been in that religion since I was 3 years old. Was the youngest of 4, and just kind of, I always wanted that voice to be heard. Kind of one of those things when you're the youngest in the family, everyone always overlooks you. And I've always been the type to journal, and I always would put my thoughts in journals, but I found myself always having 5 or 10 journals around the house, and it was like trying to piece them all together like a puzzle. So I said, how do I put my life in one big area and just leave it there so I don't have to go, 1999 book or 2001 book to kind of piece them all together. So I just kind of decided, I think I can do this. I think I can write a book. So that's what I did. I kind of sat down and, said, let's see how this would go. Really didn't have a clue what to write about. Have always known that God had something in store for me, and never knew it was to be an author. So I just thought maybe, let's see what happens. And I sat down at the computer one night, and before I knew it, 2 or 3 o'clock it rolled around, and I was writing, and just things started coming to me. So after that, I said, I really believe I can do this. And I started really praying and fasting about it and saying, God, let this be the best book that it can be. And, 9 years later, I have Lonely But Not Alone.
Excellent. So now, what made you want to channel your writing into the topic of being single and being content while you wait?
It really wasn't intentional. Really funny. It really wasn't intentional. It was basically, at that time, I just happened to be single, and when you're single, you're writing what you're about. And I wouldn't say my life was so, had such an impact at that point that it could affect someone. But as I got to writing, and as the weeks turned into months and the months turned into years, it seemed like it had a lot to do with being single and helping other people. And that became kind of my mission, and my endeavor was to help single people, since I was single at the time. And just really trying to teach people how to live it the way God wants you to live it, and being an example. So I try to make my life to always be an example to everyone else. So as I started to write it started pushing me to do more and to be more, and just not wanting to let anybody down, because I never wanted to be hypocritical. So I wanted to make sure that what I wrote was the truth. If I wasn't over it yet, I didn't write about it, which is why it took me 9 years to write my book. Because there were times where I just was kind of down and discouraged and all that, and I said, God, I got to get past this, or how can I tell them, so like I said in the book, it's not about how I made it over, it's how I'm making it over. And I think that's where a lot of books miss it. It's like they always get to the point to where I've made it, and it's not always the case. So it's real. It's just a realistic type book.
And I think that's what a lot of people need these days, is something that is real. And at times raw, but it's upfront, because it's real life and it's things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So, in having said that, How do you think your experiences, both past and present, have kind of shaped your current mentality?
It's shaped it a lot, actually. I think back on a lot of things, and it's really funny. I remember speaking with you, and we kind of did a pre-interview type of situation there. And as I think about it, my book has even helped me. And I remember saying to you, I don't remember a lot in my book. And it's kind of like when people, you get a prophecy, no one can ever remember a prophecy. But sometimes when I'm going through a situation, I'll think back and like, what did I put in my book again? Because it's amazing how some things just come full circle. You never get past certain things, and I believe that's how life works. You come back to a point to where if you missed it the first time, you get a do-over. And so I think back to, what did I write in my book, when I hit this point before, that I actually said, I can't make it this far. I can't do this anymore. I can't do that anymore. So I actually go back and kind of revisit where I came from before and see how it affected me then, and hopefully go forward from this time. And when I get past, it's like, wow, I made it this time. And when you do that, you don't have to ever worry about, going through it again, because you've made it through that test.
Excellent. It's almost like therapy. You can go back and read like, wow, this is where I was at before, and now, praise God, I've accomplished. And hopefully I won't experience that again.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very good. So speaking of your book, I'm going to read an excerpt from it. It was on your chapter entitled Firm Foundation. Okay, and you stated, what gives us a right to decide our children's future from the day they are conceived? This is exactly what we are doing when we fail to nurture them emotionally through their young lives. We are taking our children and saying, this is where you belong. We are deciding whether they end up behind bars or if they become the lawyers and judges that put the criminals there. And that kind of spoke to me very profound, because it shows of how our lives can really impact those of the future children. So, and having said that, in contemplation of that, where do you think that we as a society have gone wrong when it comes to addressing relationships and addressing the topics of being single? I mean, we can talk about the statistics, 43% of Americans over the age of 18 are unmarried and single. 53% of those are females. And for every 83 women unmarried, there's 100 males that are unmarried. So with all those in mind, where do you think we went wrong?
I don't necessarily think we went wrong. It's an individual thing. You can ask one woman if she's okay being single, and she'll tell you, I'm content. I don't want a husband. I don't want a family. I'm content with my job. I'm content with just where I am in life. Then you'll ask another female, and she might say, I want a husband and I want it now. And that's the reason for my movement. That was the reason for the book. That's where it stems around those females, the ones who are, content with being single, and those who aren't content with being single. And it kind of hits both of them, because I've been through both of them. So I wouldn't say we went wrong anywhere. It's an individual affair again. So we have to, think back and say, why is this person content and you're not? What pressures are on you? I have my grandmother, my late grandmother, would always say every time she saw me, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have children? And you start thinking about those things, and that's why I tell people all the time, you have to watch the company that you keep. I could not go around grandma. So I actually had to get to a point to where I was okay with those questions. And even now, that my grandmother's gone, my mother does the same things. I'm ready for a grandchild. When are you going to do it? So I think this is what society does. They put those limits on us and say, by the age of 25, by the age of 28, you need to have this done. You need to be married. You need to have kids. Or you're not effective, or you're not where you're supposed to be. But who says that's the way it's supposed to be? And I think that's where the stigma comes from, that we can't be content being single. We have to have someone in our lives, and we don't.
There's like those milestones that are etched, I think, into so many people's minds, and because they don't know any better, or because they don't choose to break that mold, and they continue to pass it on generation after generation after generation, and then you have these people who are not content where they are.
That's exactly what happens.
So how do you think that we can kind of start to change these thought processes and the patterns that have been set?
We have to change our way of thinking. who says you have to be married by 25? Who says you have to have anyone in your life at all? So we have to change ourselves. We have to go back to, the mistakes we've made in the past. Sometimes we're single not because we can't get anybody. We're single because we choose the wrong somebodies. And so we have to go back to the time where we messed up before and start, setting a precedent. They say if it's not broken, don't fix it. But most of the time it is broken. And we have broken mentalities. We continue to take those same, patterns into other relationships. So we have to change ourselves and start to realize, why do I feel like I need somebody? Why do I feel like in order for me to be content, I have to have a man or a woman in my life? And that's important. And it's funny because even though the book is about me, a female, and you get a lot of people who think I have to be a female to read it or it's not going to help me, but you don't. It's not gender specific. You can put your place and your name in the place of mine and say this is what she went through, because being single, if we be honest, we all endure the same things. No one likes to go home by themselves at night and be lonely. It's just that simple. And I wanted people to realize, let's just change our mentality and how we view things and how we want people to view us, and then we'll start noticing change in our lives altogether.
Excellent. And so when speaking of change, I think this is a great time to kind of bring in your singles movement, Time Between I Do. Can you talk a little bit about that and tell us what some of your goals and aspirations are?
Ooh, a little bit. I can talk a lot on Time Between I Do. Awesome. I love my book, but the movement alone is it's my baby, and it's amazing that after actually talking or writing a book for 9 years, it was amazing how when God gave me the vision for Time Between I Do, that it pretty much mirrored it. And God allowed me to see that it's not just a book, but you can create a movement off this. You can show single people how to live, life single and be okay with it. And so I think the most important thing about TBI Do is to make people understand you have to be busy. It's like that saying goes, an idle mind's the devil's workshop. And we forget that when we're idle and we're sitting not doing anything, that's when Satan gets the opportunity to come and just whip you over the head everything that's going on in your life or not going on in your life. So Time Between I Do is to help single people realize what they can be doing. If you're a minister, let me show you how you can be a better minister. Not saying I'm going to be the one that's doing all this, but I can bring ministers in and do workshops that teach you how to really start to develop that foundation that God has given you. If you're an aspiring teacher, then I can show you how to do that. It's just basically to get you together. I have different events on Fridays that we get together because people don't realize when you're single that you still need to watch your company that you keep. You can't go everywhere when you're a Christian with the world where they go, because then you're going to get to the point to where you're doing things you shouldn't be doing. So it's to keep us together as a unit and to encourage each other. So when we do that, it just really helps them to really live the single life better. As far as the aspirations and my visions for it, I see a huge TBID building. And I want to teach people, because the name of it is Time Between I Do. So it's the time that we're focused, it's in the between time between now and the time you get married that we're focusing on. So what can you be doing in between that time? Getting yourself together. If you don't know how to cook, we want to be able to teach you women and men how to cook. If you don't know how to fix things around the house, we want to teach you how to do that. But we want to make you a whole individual as you wait for that, the right man. So when it gets there, then we can get together, and you don't have to say, honey, I don't know how to cook, because you know now, because Time Between I Do was there for you to help nurture you during that time. And so when you get to that point, you're a real well-rounded individual, and you don't have to worry about those things anymore.
Excellent. And I think a key point that you just made was the fact of being whole.
Right.
You have to be whole. You can't keep continuing to pursue different relationships as you're broken. Right. So what an excellent inspiration you are.
Thank you.
Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's so excited about this, so how can our viewers reach you, find more information about your movement, about your book?
You can reach me at www.tbido.com or vondachappelle.com.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.